I am back.
Yes.
I finally made it. I was moving last week and I'm still in moving transition. But I found a place close to where I work I'm really excited about. So
sweet.
Instead of a 30 to 45 minute drive to work, it's now going to be like 10 minutes. And
Dude,
I'm
that's
really
awesome.
excited about that. Yeah.
No freeway, nothing? Or you still have to get on the freeway?
I do have to get on the freeway, but it's literally the next
one
exit.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it's so nice, man. I'm really excited.
And it's much nicer over there.
Mm-hmm.
In general.
Most definitely.
Cool. Is it? Are you still waiting to hear back for approval, or?
Nope. I'm signing the lease tomorrow.
Dude, nice.
I'm
That's good
approved.
news.
It's a done deal unless I screw up my signature. So I'm very, very excited. Things are changing.
Very cool. I mean, it's always nice to move. It's not a big deal. Did you get rid of anything?
Oh, I got rid of almost everything. I got rid of so much stuff, especially in my closet. For me, clothes are just something you accumulate over the years, and I had accumulated a lot. And as I was moving, I was like, you know what? I am too fat to fit in all of these clothes from years ago. So let's just get rid of them.
Well, those are always good to have, just in case, right? But you can go and buy new ones.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought.
No,
I got honestly, the only things I really kept were my bed frame, and personal stuff.
Wow.
I got rid of all the furniture I had.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did too. Every single time we moved, we shedded half. Every single time. Mm-hmm. Half is gone, half is gone, half is gone. I mean, it's good, it's not good to be a hoarder. I've seen these houses of hoarders. Yeah. Man, it really is a sickness. Like, they have stuff overflowing to their driveway.
Right. I know it's too much. What I'm most excited about is I had a seizure and cracked my head on my dresser. This is a couple years ago.
Last year, right? Oh,
was it last year? I don't know. Too many seizures. I can't remember the exact timing of all of them, which is sad.
Oh wait, no, it was before we started the show. But that's when you wanted to start the show, when that happened, actually.
Right.
Yeah. I think it was 2 years ago.
I hit my head so hard, I said, "Let's start a podcast." That's a good idea. So I hit my head on that dresser and I had to get 26 stitches in my forehead. But I got to throw that dresser in the garbage, so I got the last laugh. Through that dresser.
Here's to new beginnings.
New beginnings. But you know what is not a new beginning is this podcast.
Right.
The Uncovering Anomalies Podcast. That is I Have a Need to Know, Adam.
Hey everyone, I'm sure everyone's bored with my name compared to yours that keeps changing week by week.
I have a lot of fun with it. In fact, this week I am the Topherist. That's right. I hate everyone who is named Topher.
So you are the Topherist.
I'm a huge bigot. Huge bigot.
Interesting. I completely forgot what I wanted to say about Topherist. And do you think at one point you're going to reuse a nickname?
I think I have before. I know I was talking of Topher for like 3 or 4 episodes in a row. That was a while ago. Yeah. I'm sure I will. I'm starting to run out of T words.
Well, it's kind of almost it's kind of almost impossible for you to reuse because there's a lot of T words, right? Mm-hmm. But not a lot of words with Topher in it, though.
I'll continue to try and be creative. I'll do my best.
Nice PFP though.
Yeah, thank you. I love this picture. This was AI generated. It was posted to one of the subreddits that I am sub to. We're seeing a lot of cool AI stuff. 2 weeks ago, I had you play that horror clip.
Yeah.
And there's some really, really cool. I've been meaning to send you stuff, but it's kind of pointless, as in we can't really use it on the show because it's like, hey, look at this cool picture. But I'm seeing a lot of cool stuff coming out of Midjourney, which I had never heard of before. That's actually what this picture is generated from.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Midjourney, I think it's one of the original ones that focused on images.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. before the other ones came up. I mean, ChatGPT's what's it called? Dolly. It's all right. It's not perfect. That's what we use for the show.
Nice.
Whenever, for our episodes.
So today is August 25th of 2024, our Lord and Savior 2024. And today we're going to be talking about everything we always talk about, man. Aliens, UFOs, conspiracies. It's all here. It's all here.
And we're going to focus on in the first hour with the Aurora, Texas UFO crash.
Very, very fun.
That was in 1897. So a long time ago, and it's supposed to be one of the ones that are real. I mean, like, they have it could be fake or not. Like, it has a lot of evidence, a lot of witnesses, a lot of newspaper articles. We'll hear also from the late Jim Mars. Do you know who he is? Jim Mars?
No, I don't. But he's got a great name for this topic.
He was so funny too. But he's an investigator, investigative journalist. And he did write books about UFOs. Actually, one of the first ones I read that woke me up to many. I guess I went down the rabbit hole with him. Was it Rule by Secrecy or was it Alien Agenda? One of those. He wrote Alien Agenda, and then I read Rule by Secrecy, or was it the opposite way? Anyway, he said that it was a secret societies covering this up. I remember he had like David Icke and a lot of the footnotes. So from there, I went like, who is this guy? He keeps quoting. So then I went and found David Icke, and just it's been history since then. But yeah, he did a great book about Aurora, and he got up all the, I guess, primary source documents with this crash. So have you heard of it before, the Aurora?
I have. I was just going to say there was a lot of very interesting stuff. It was printed in newspapers and everything. The late 1800s, early 1900s. Airships was the big one that everyone was seeing right around this time.
Yeah, exactly. And they even have a plaque here. This is on rents.com. So it's from the year 2000. This article was written. Okay, I've talked about how I think that the human observation is half of the phenomenon when you see a UFO. And what was going on around this time, the late 1800s, early 1900s, where like Zeppelins were starting to come into come into fashion, and that's why UFOs appeared as Zeppelins during this time. That's my opinion. But that's why, and probably because we have no other way to understand this, so we just say that's what it was.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing when you look at historical UFO cases. Like when you look at the ancient Romans, when they saw UFOs, they always said a flaming chariot.
Yeah, or shield. Exactly.
That's what was around. And this has been a huge driver as to why I believe these things. You see a big flying thing in the sky, but the only thing you can compare it to is a chariot, so it's a chariot. You see a big flying thing in the sky in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it's a Zeppelin.
So do you think the same thing's happening today, even though humanity has come to a point where they're so technologically advanced? We know about space now, and that's why the spaceships.
Yes, I mean, I think it's the exact same thing. If we had no planes, we're still riding on horses, we'd probably see a flaming horse that come out of the sky and think it's a UFO.
All right, so in this one, they say, look for the sign saying cemetery pointing south. There is a historical marker that includes the word spaceship at the site. Newspapers from April 1897 reported that the alien craft hit a windmill. Like, why would it hit a windmill and was torn to pieces along with its occupants?
Yeah, that's bizarre. Because windmills are not, if anyone's seen, they're not like a desk fan. I mean, they are very slow moving. You'd have to be kind of an idiot to crash into a windmill.
Right. So that's what I feel like when these things were happening, or even when they happen now, I think it's just another species on this planet that's, at the same time evolving at the same time we are. And they're also testing stuff, but, that they crash. And I don't think, even though they thought this person was from space, So, newspapers from April 1897 reported that the alien craft hit a windmill and was torn to pieces along with its occupant. A 1986 movie, I didn't know about that, Aurora Encounter, tells the tale.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, the official historical marker was installed by the state, although nobody knows exactly where the grave is. Here's the text of the marker as seen in the photo below. Aurora Cemetery. The oldest known graves here, dating from as early as the 1860s, are those of the Randall and Rowlett families. Finis Dudley Buchamp,
Bucamp, yeah.
Bucamp, 1825 to 1893, a Confederate veteran from Mississippi, donating the 3-acre site to the newly formed Aurora Lodge. So I guess it would be a Masonic lodge, number 479. In 1877. For many years, this community burial ground was known as Masonic Cemetery. Bucamp, his wife Caroline, and others in their family, an epidemic which struck the village in 1891 added hundreds of graves to the plot. Called spotted fever by the settlers, the disease is now thought to be a form of meningitis. Located in Aurora Cemetery is the gravestone of the infant Nellis Burris, with its often quoted epitaph, "As I was so soon done, I don't know why I was begun." This site is also well known because of the legend. Of the legend that a spaceship crashed nearby in 1897, and the pilot killed in the crash was buried here, struck by epidemic and crop failure, and bypassed by the railroad. The original town of Aurora almost disappeared, but the cemetery remains in use with over 800 graves. Veterans of the Civil War, World War I and II, and the Korean and Vietnam conflicts are interred here. So nonchalantly,
a very popular. Well, popular is not the right word. A well-used graveyard.
Yeah, so I guess it's still in use, even though the town probably is not much, right?
Well, it's interesting that they, if you look back up, it says Aurora had so many problems. The food wasn't growing.
Right.
Let me see.
The spotted fever disease.
They had disease. Yeah, I mean, it's a dead end town in more ways than one.
Yeah, I think even back then there was just hundreds of people there, not that many people.
And bypassed by the railroad. I mean, that's a death sentence for towns back then.
Yeah. Aurora brings up images of high-speed space travel. In fact, our new space plane is named Aurora. That's right, for a UFO. Oh, good point.
You go ahead and keep reading this. I'm going to run downstairs real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. So last year this is 2,000 years ago. I mean, sorry, this is the year 2000. Last year was the 100th anniversary of the crash of an unknown airship in Aurora, Texas. The TV show Sightings had a special called 100 Years of UFO Cover-Ups that featured the recovery of an alien body in Aurora, Texas. The incident has been covered up by the government and was then widely reported to be a hoax. A weather balloon sounds a lot like Roswell in 1947. The U.S. government has a long history of cover-ups in regards to things like this. I hope this investigation will clear up the Aurora event for good. Here is the story as written in 1897 in the April 19 edition of the Dallas Morning News as follows. About 6 o'clock this morning, the early risers of Aurora were astonished at the sudden appearance of the airship which has been sailing around the country. It was traveling due north and much nearer the Earth than before. Evidently, some of the machinery was out of order, for it was making a speed of only 10 or 12 miles an hour and gradually settling toward the Earth. It sailed... Oh, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Nice. It sailed over the public square, and when it reached the north part of the town, it collided with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill and went into pieces with a terrific explosion, scattered debris over several acres of ground, wrecking the windmill and water tank, and destroyed the judge's flower garden. The pilot of the ship is supposed to have been the only one on board, and while his remains were badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world. This is a newspaper.
So the early part of this article was saying that the pilot was buried in that cemetery, right?
Yes.
Did they not dig him up, or is that what they're talking about?
There was an effort to do that, and when they went, it was gone. So someone else took it. CIA.
I don't even know. I don't think they existed back then, but I mean, some form of.
Or the Smithsonian Institute back then.
Yeah.
They were doing that so much.
Oh my God, yeah. The Smithsonians were all over stuff like this.
Yeah, and covering it up, right? They just
absolutely
keep the narrative. Mr. T.J. Weems, the U.S. Army Signal Service officer at this place and an authority on astronomy, gives it as his opinion that the pilot was a native of the planet Mars. Okay. Papers found on his person, evidently the records of his travels, are written in some unknown hieroglyphics and cannot be deciphered. This ship was too badly wrecked to form any conclusion as to its construction or motive power. It was made of an unknown metal, resembling somewhat a mixture of aluminum and silver, and it must have weighed several tons. The town is today full of people who are viewing the wreckage and gathering specimens of strange metal from the debris. The pilot's funeral will take place tomorrow.
It's good to know that even aliens from Mars, if they have their travel documents with them.
That's hilarious. What the fuck? And written in hieroglyphics. I mean, could this have been like a crazy hoax? And why choose Aurora? I mean,
it does. Yeah, I know.
Right?
The whole thing's weird.
But all of this is weird.
I think looking at this case from a whole, something happened there, and then all this garbage got tossed into it to make it seem less credible, just like always.
Yeah, that makes sense. Exactly. Counterintelligence, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the article was written by E.E. Hayden, who was a part-time reporter for the morning news. As startling as the news was, no other newspapers in the world ran the story in their paper. News of the incident remained dormant for almost a century. May 24th, 1973, when newspapers around the country published the following United Press International account. You want to get this one?
Where is CNN? Why isn't CNN all over this in 1897?
Yeah, I mean, our news was definitely way more freer back then, right? It wasn't consolidated. It was just
you could
corporations owning everything. Right, yeah. So here's about the grave.
Oh, sweet. Okay, good.
Yeah, so a grave in a small North Texas cemetery contains the body of an 1897 astronaut who was not an inhabitant of this world, quote unquote. According to the International UFO Bureau, the group, which investigates unidentified flying objects, has already initiated legal proceedings to exhume the body and will go to court if necessary to open the grave, Director Hayden Hughes said Wednesday. After checking the grave with metal detectors and gathering facts for 3 months, we are certain as we can be at this point that he was the pilot of a UFO which reportedly exploded atop a well on Judge J.S. Proctor's place, April 19th, 1897, Hughes said. OHE was not an inhabitant of this world. Oh, he was not an inhabitant of this world. A few days later, another UPI account datelined Aurora quoted a 91-year-old who had been a girl of 15 in Aurora at the time of the reported incident. She said she had all but forgotten the incident until it appeared in the newspapers recently. She said her parents had gone to the site of the crash, but had refused to take her along. She recalled that the remains of the pilot, a small man, had been buried in the Aurora cemetery. Crazy. So there's a witness. I mean, she was 90 when they asked her. But at least there's a witness.
It sounds like Kevin Hart crashed there.
Not to be outdone, the Associated Press, in a story datelined Denton, Texas, reported that a North Texas State University professor had found some metal fragments near the Oates gas station, former Proctor Farm. One fragment was said to be most intriguing because it consisted of primarily of iron, which did not seem to exhibit magnetic properties. The professor also said he was puzzled because the fragment was shiny and malleable instead of dull and brittle like iron. So yeah, we've been having fragments like that since the 1800s, looks like. The Aurora Cemetery Association. What?
No, I was agreeing with you. Very, very strange.
Yeah, and the Aurora Cemetery Association was successful in blocking the attempts to dig up the grounds in search of the Martian pilot. The incident will probably go underground again, pun intended, until its centennial in 1997 will bring another round of widespread press coverage.
Wow.
I'm sure it will show somewhere that they tried. Last year, we made a field investigation in the small town of Aurora, Texas, just north of Fort Worth. The results of our research are weird, to say the least. One of the first things you might notice when arriving in Aurora is that there are military traces everywhere in town. It even boasts a small military-type airport circa 1940s. Even the streets of town are laid out in typical base fashion. To anyone who ever served in the military, the signs of military habitations are clear. So there's another thing like linked to the military, which would cry a test, wouldn't it? Of some sort. But why would they put like small men in these things? I guess jets. If you're an Air Force pilot, you can't be tall, right? You have to be small enough to fit in the F-16s. Like,
yeah, I mean that part makes sense. Sure.
And I guess too bad that the creature or being was torn up too much. Although they,
yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, I just don't buy that part.
Yeah, especially the one.
For whatever reason, whatever vestige of the military that existed back then, they were all over this. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, especially okay. Let's go back to the hieroglyphics. Did they say it was on paper? I mean, what they're going to use paper too?
I think it did say papers.
It said papers.
Yeah.
Oh man! As we continue through town, we found the famous old Judge Proctor's place, and we visited the town square. Of course, almost the entire town from those days is gone, replaced by modern buildings. Nearby is the town cemetery, where it is alleged by some that a small visitor from space was buried over 100 years ago. A quick visit to the cemetery showed a very neat, well-kept place with no sign of the tombstone. It was stolen some years ago and never recovered. There are picture records of its existence, and above is a photo of it.
You know, I often wonder about that with alien or UFO crashes, I should say.
Yeah.
How often the stuff just gets picked up and taken, not out of spite, but just go, oh, this is kind of cool. And then some random Joe takes it back home and he puts it in his garage in a box, and it just sits there for 50 years because, like, you know, I've been known to do that from time to time where I pick up something I find interesting, but it's not interesting enough to like tell people. I just have it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and teenagers do that all the time. You know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they come around something, especially back then when we were outside most of the time and not inside. You find something, you're like, oh, this is cool. I'd love to have it in my room, you know, as decoration or something, and you just take it, especially if there's no one around. So here's another one. Let's see if there's anything new. I mean, they do have pictures of the cemetery here. Established 1861. It is pretty big.
Yeah.
So I guess Aurora is near. If they said Fort Worth, so it's near Dallas, which is a huge city.
Yeah. Now, if you want me to point to Fort Worth on a map, I can't. I know it's in Texas. That's about it.
Me neither. So here's one of the E. Hayden, the one that we read before. Again, it was traveling due north and much nearer the Earth than ever before. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what I don't like? I don't like that he was a part-time writer.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Ship was too bad. Okay, where's the other newspaper? Here's another one from the New York Times.
If the little man from outer space hadn't died when his cigar-shaped spaceship plowed into Judge S.H. Proctor's window on April 19th, 1897, this would be like any other rural community left to wither when the railroad went elsewhere just after the turn of the century. In fact, that's exactly what most of its residents would like Aurora to remain. A quiet farming and ranching community of 273 persons, a dot on the more intricate state maps, an obscure community 45 miles northwest of Dallas, in a county where the biggest town has 3,750 residents, and the biggest event is the annual Chisholm Trail Days each June. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this whole town, now I'm starting to go on the skeptic side. This whole town made a name for itself based on this UFO crash because clearly the town was dying.
Right.
And so
maybe they knew something in the military or something.
There is a reason why they might fake this.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how when you first read about this in like UFO books, they say, all right, this one has got the best evidence and witnesses and I don't know what. And then when we delve into it, we start getting skeptical. It is weird. I mean, maybe they took the body away because it was human, not because it was alien,
or there was no body,
or there was never a body. Yeah. Right. And Masons, they said it was a Masonic lodge there, so it could have been something. Because they know the media, what it does and how powerful it is. So what's this? A bid for exhumation, I think, except for an Oklahoma City researcher of identified flying objects who contended that he had proof the story was true. Proponents of exhumation say they are not sure the man from outer space is buried in the cemetery here, and they say there was a nationwide UFO from 1897, marked by dozens of obviously spurious sightings, but this is the only place where a being is supposed to be buried, and efforts should be made to find out if it's true, they say.
I just have a hard time believing if there was a body buried there, it would have been, first of all, it wouldn't have been buried. If there truly was a body, I don't think it would have been buried. Second of all, if it was buried, it would have been dug up like an hour after it was buried. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The chances of a definitive answer to the riddle of the Aurora spaceman are about as likely as a suitable explanation to the question posed in the epitaph of Nellie Burris, dead at 18 months and buried in the same cemetery.
Yeah, it's the same quote we read earlier. Really sad.
Yeah.
It is a good quote, though. As I was so soon done, I don't know why I was begun.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, that hits hard.
All right, well, okay. Let's give Jim Mars a chance. Maybe he can.
Sure.
He's not known to. I mean, he's a great researcher. So maybe we missed something. It is long, but we can skip things and maybe put it on 1.5 speed.
Sounds good to me.
They're just a fact of modern life.
Doesn't he look great? He looks like an archaeologist, right?
He looks like the guy from Jurassic Park.
Yes, he does. Oh my God, good one. Totally, man.
In fact, if you check with friends or family members, chances are you'll find someone with a UFO story. Everyone's heard of the famous crash at Roswell in 1947. Some people know about the Foo Fighters during World War II. But there's a case that goes back far beyond that, even before the Wright brothers ever flew a heavier-than-air craft. It happened in Aurora, Texas in 1897.
That's a good point. It was before the Wright brothers.
About the Aurora crash after being told the story by Hayden Hughes of the International UFO Bureau. Case immediately looked up the April 19th, 1897 article in his newspaper's microfilm library. The story stated, about 6 o'clock this morning, the early risers of Aurora were somewhat a mixture of aluminum and silver, and it must have weighed several tons. The town today is full of people who are viewing the wreckage, gathering specimens of the strange metal. Now, at this time, I was aviation aerospace writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram back in 1973, and I decided to follow the Aurora story. Partly because the Times Herald was considered the competition, and partly because the story intrigued me. Bill told me he had spoken to some of the old-timers in Aurora and was convinced that something had indeed occurred there in 1897. I arranged to meet Case at the Aurora Cemetery, where he showed me what he said was the airship's pilot's grave.
All right.
It was located in the south portion of the picturesque cemetery.
And I got to thank UFOB for removing the background music because it was really distracting. Definitely makes this much more watchable.
Which overlooks the rolling Wise County countryside. The grave was near a large live oak tree and was not full size. It was obviously the grave of a child or a very small man. At the head of the grave was a crude rock headstone. It appeared that half of the marker had broken off and was missing. On the remaining half was etched a design which resembled a large V lying on one side. Inside the V shape were three small circles. The entire design indeed resembled one end of a saucer-shaped structure, and the small circles appeared to be portholes. I was acquainted with some of the old cemeteries in the area, and many containing the graves of early settlers, the Maltese cross markers of Confederate soldiers. This was indeed a very strange and intriguing marker. Bill told me he had used a metal detector on the gravesite, and it indicated at least 3 large pieces of metal in the grave. One near the headstone, and the other 2 near the center of the grave.
Hold on, really quick. Did they? I might have missed it during the article we were looking at the beginning. Did they discuss where the ship went after it crashed? Like who took it or what they did with it?
I think military came and took it. Okay. Yeah, they do mention at some point. I think even that's in Ohio. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sure he'll get to it. Because they said it was a big craft, right? Heavy.
Right.
He was excited over this find and believed that if the pieces of metal could be exhumed, they might provide the proof of what actually occurred in 1897. I too was impressed with the idea of obtaining objective proof of what, until then, I considered just an old-timer's tall tale.
Right.
While Case and UFO researchers set out to find someone to analyze whatever might be retrieved from the grave, I began researching the 1897 period, trying to put the Aurora story in perspective. What I discovered was astounding. The Aurora story was not an isolated incident. The microfilmed editions of area newspapers of the period were filled with various accounts of flying objects and even contacts with their crews. It was the great airship mystery of 1896-97.
All right, so it was around that time of the airships then that were happening. So I guess that is good context there.
Mm-hmm.
Airship mystery.
Dun dun dun.
It all started in the fall of 1896 when a large airship was seen in California.
Oh no, the music.
On the evening of November the 17th, 1896, several hundred residents of Sacramento watched a bright, radiant light undulate through the night sky for more than 30 minutes until it disappeared over the southwest horizon. Observers were able to discern a definite oblong shape behind the light and said that it was moving purposely against the prevailing wind. They also said the object appeared to have propellers and a small cockpit or cabin attached. Some witnesses even claimed to have heard voices drifting down from the object. Apparently, the airship continued its southward journey.
2 things. Yeah. First one, can you imagine directing that stock footage? How stupid it is. But the more important thing is hearing voices come out of the sky from an airship that's, producing light and everything else. I mean, that's crazy stuff.
It is, and it's always
it's like it's biblical.
Yeah, right. And it's always just, 40, 50 years ahead, right? Not just and maybe it's done on purpose because then we really won't understand it. The whole thing's so bizarre.
Very bizarre.
And again, I think it was only here, unless it was in Europe as well. But I think the airship mystery was only in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know from my knowledge of UFO sightings that were happening around this time, it was just United States centric. But that's kind of the case with UFOs, unfortunately. Well, either fortunately or unfortunately. The only ones you ever hear about are in the U.S. I mean, even Rendlesham Forest, which happened in the U.K., was around a American UFO base.
A U.S. base, yeah.
Also, when you dig a little bit deeper, you find all these people coming out of the woodwork and in Europe and Africa who have seen UFOs and seen weird stuff, but it just doesn't gain the same mainstream attraction that it does here in the U.S.
Yeah, and I wonder because we were such a free country back then. It could have been just private people doing these tests.
Oh, man, maybe,
We
but
didn't have FAA. We didn't have any of that stuff. Like we
when
do
you think
now.
about like the rich and powerful
Right.
people in that time period,
Yeah.
they were all in the forefront. They weren't hiding behind their wealth like some might do today.
Right.
They were popular and everyone knew them.
Yeah, exactly. And science was was part of the foundings of this country and inventions, and it's always been that way. So who knows? Could have been someone just pushing the boundaries of science.
Yeah, maybe.
Just
real quick, and this is totally off topic, but the Empire State Building, that big spire on the top, was meant for Zeppelins. To attach to.
Yeah, which is really cool.
I really wish they had made it. I understand why not, but I don't know. I just think of a cruise. You're on a ship right in the ocean, but think of a cruise in the air. That's what a Zeppelin was.
I think they're trying to bring those back.
I sure hope they do, because I think it's cool as hell.
So many people on that, and it's quiet.
You're up in the air.
I think he goes through a lot of the airship cases, so we can skip.
Okay.
Why does it always do this when it's full screen? There we go.
Almost 100 years. C.L. McElhaney and a dozen other residents of Stephenville, Texas, said a cigar-shaped craft carrying a pilot and an engineer landed in the Erath County in early 1897. About that same time, a family in Merkel, returning from church, discovered an anchor hooked to a fence.
What?
They claimed a stout rope led from the anchor to a large cigar-shaped craft hovering in midair. As the astounded family members watched, the ship flew away. But according to the news article, the anchor was on public display in Merkel for several days. One of the oddest stories came from the April edition of the Fort Worth Register. The article said Fort Worth Railroad track inspector Patrick Burns, who had a reputation as a, quote, truthful man, end quote, had his own close encounter. According to Burns, he was inspecting track west of Fort Worth near the town of Putnam. As evening approached, he was about to turn around and return to the city when he saw a bright light ahead. He found a large silver cigar-shaped object sitting on the ground, surrounded by a crew of men clad in blue uniforms. Burns, too, spoke of a captain of the ship who said the craft was loaded with several tons of dynamite, which was to be used to bomb the Spanish Navy. Burns returned home to Fort Worth and recounted his tale to the newspaper, which stated it hardly cares to repeat it. Here again is mention of hostilities with Cuba.
Again,
yet the Spanish-American War did not.
If we're half the phenomenon, why wouldn't the aliens come up with some dumb story like that?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if there is like a war going on, like we're here to bomb.
Because exactly. It makes sense as to why they would say something like that or claim something like that. Because what a perfect way to maintain your cover. Say, this thing's full of dynamite. We're about to go bomb those damn Spaniards.
Exactly. We're your friends.
Because then you go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. All right, good on you.
Sounds good.
Go get them, boys. And then you like the thing said, go back to Fort Worth.
So bizarre. And again, they're wearing blue jumpsuits, which is always a recurring theme.
Yeah, so weird.
Right?
I love these jumpsuits.
Yeah, and blue.
Yeah, weird, right?
So weird.
Blue.
Not began until well after the mysterious destruction of the battleship Maine on February the 15th, 1898. As Fort Worth Star-Telegram writer Jerry Flemons correctly deduced after recounting Burns's experience, quote, if a ruler is placed on a map, Aurora lies almost in a straight line between the Putnam sighting and the Ozarks. By 6 a.m., the cigar could have been over Aurora, just in time to destroy Judge Proctor's flower garden. There were hoaxes associated with the flap. In the 1960s, an aging railroad telegrapher confessed that the entire airship story was just a joke concocted by railroad men in Iowa. He said when the joke spread to Texas, truthful Scully was selected to initiate the tale. Yet hoaxes could not account for all of the sightings. It's abundantly clear that something was flying through the air in 1897. And if that something was a man-made dirigible, no one ever has come forward to take credit for it. In fact, the first recorded dirigible flight in the United States was in 1904 when Thomas Baldwin's California Era lifted off from Oakland, California. It was also clear that the great airship mystery did not end in Aurora. Reports of the craft continued for days after the reported crash. Skeptic and author Philip Klass once wrote, during a 5-day period between April the 15th and April the 19th, 1897, the Dallas Morning News reported sightings from 21 different towns in Texas. During the next 9 days, the Houston Post carried 9 others. In fact, 2 days after the reported...
I know, right?
Fuck Philip Klass. No, screw that guy. Anything
before he died, he gave a
no.
curse, right?
I hope he's rolling in his grave. That guy sucked and lied and just he harassed people. That was what he made his career on. He was a terrible, terrible person.
He's like Mick West in Stephen Greenstreet,
but worse. Philip Klass was worse.
Yeah, he blatantly lied, even when he was caught.
Yeah, it was terrible. I hate that guy.
And he put a curse on the UFO.
Yes, he did. Right? And very likely a CIA plant.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Those guys always are on the take.
Yep, every time.
Aurora Crash.
Sorry.
No, I just said every time again. You're good.
Yeah.
Came what may have been the first recorded UFO incident involving a cow. An edition of the St. Louis Globe-Democrat stated that on the night of April the 19th, 1897, farmer Alexander Hamilton reported that a mysterious airship had descended on his farm near Yates Center and after pointing a powerful spotlight toward the ground, abducted one of his cows with a rope.
Whoa, with a rope?
Of the great airship mystery, author Paris Flamon wrote, despite all the errors deriving from intent, ignorance, and overexcitement, nothing altered the fact that tens of thousands of people had viewed the light or lamp or the object or even specific craft. Most relevant was that a considerable percentage of the often detailed accounts originated with highly reputable and responsible individuals. Lights and flying objects are one thing, but how does one explain small uniformed crewmen, anchors, and propellers? One possible explanation was offered by John Spencer of the British UFO Research Association. He said, if some of the airships were of extraterrestrial origin, then it would confirm the theory of cultural tracking, which suggests that many of the devices of the aliens are made to look very similar to the technology of Earth at the time.
Yeah.
This was his explanation as printed in his UFO encyclopedia.
Yeah, so again,
very, very common. I mean, I brought it up several times before on the show, that fishing village in South America, I think it was Brazil, they were getting scooped up by fishing hooks. It's the same deal. I mean, that's why that's why I keep saying it. We're half the phenomena. You bring in your experience and that's what you see. That's how you're, that's your interpretation of it.
They're so strange. It's like that's their way of communicating with us. It's just is like copying us in a way. Like, we can do it just much better.
It's so bizarre. So bizarre.
It is. So yeah, Alien Agenda, a great book. Definitely, I recommend this reading. He's a great writer, so it's an easy read, quick read. Although his books are pretty big, but yeah, I definitely recommend Alien Agenda.
Sweet.
Others, of course, take a different view.
Klass.
Ardent UFO debunker Klass, after reviewing reports of the airship, concluded, the events demonstrate that when the public has been conditioned by the news media to believe that there are strange objects in the sky, many people report having seen such objects, even when the objects do not really exist. Now, while Klass's thesis undoubtedly is true, to a certain extent, it does not hold up when considering the slow transportation and communication of 1897. Radio was non-existent, and newspapers took days, even weeks, to be delivered. Many of the airship witnesses in small Texas towns could not have heard of the other far-flung sightings. After reviewing the airship literature, I could not draw any firm conclusion, so I began to interview the people in Aurora.
There we go.
The population of the little hamlet in 1973 was less than 400 persons. They seemed almost evenly divided in their beliefs concerning the crash. Half claimed it really happened, while the other half claimed that it was merely a hoax perpetrated by Hayden, a literate man who was a stringer for local newspapers and had previously written several satirical pieces. I began to realize that everyone had their own opinion, their own mindset, if you will, which was based on which particular old-timer one chose to believe. But while the old-timers around Aurora were hesitant to talk about the spaceship crash, their descendants were not so closed-mouthed. I've talked to many people in Wise County who will quietly say, oh yes, I've heard about this for years through the family or whatever, and I've even gotten some to speak for the camera.
Nice.
Well, I grew up around here, and we moved out here in the late 50s, and I've been here for a long time. And when I was a kid, we used to go up and play up around Aurora. Some friends of mine, there's the ballpark up there and some other areas. We used to go out and play around there, and there's some older men that talked about where an old spaceship had crashed. Some people believe it happened. Some of the older ones you talk to would say, well, yeah, but, there really wasn't anything that really did happen. And then some of the younger ones that will tell you that, well, yeah, something did happen. My father was there, my grandfather was there, and saw the wreckage or saw what was a wreckage of something. All of them got little pieces of metal at one time, and it's different. It's a little alloy-looking metal that's soft to the touch, but nobody can explain what it is.
Well, we all grew up. I grew up in Wise County over there by Aurora, the old cemetery over there. My grandpa, actually, it was my great-grandpa. My grandpa was just a young boy back then, I guess. And he said it was around dusk or about dark, and back then there wasn't, any kind of air traffic or anything like that, But he said that there was just a real big, just a boom. Something hit the ground, pretty hard. They got Joe Smith, that was my great-grandpa, and he loaded up all the kids and stuff. It was like a circus coming to town, they didn't know what it was. So they all loaded up and they went down the road there, and other people were out gathering around too, because they actually seen whatever it was, hit when it hit. And it mowed over some trees and everything right there by the cemetery. And as far as what he said he saw was just a bunch of debris. I think he said just maybe a matter of 4 or 5 hours that every law enforcement agency that was around this neck of the woods up here was there. Real quick like.
Etta Pegues was a stringer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram in 1973, and hence a major source for the news media regarding the crash. It's all a hoax, she said flatly. I have talked to people who were alive then, and they all said Judge Proctor had no windmill. However, Pegues later published a book entitled Aurora, Texas, the town that might have been. In her book is an illustration depicting a saucer-shaped spaceship aiming down at a windmill. Poetic license, she snorted when asked about the drawing. Her primary source of information was Robbie Hansen. Robbie Reynolds Hansen said, quote, they're still trying to bring up the hoax about the spaceship, end quote. She was 12 years old on the day of the crash. Her family lived outside of town, and no one knew anything about it until a man rode by several days later and told the family the story. Well, I remember my father remarked that the judge really outdid himself that time, Robbie Hansen told me. Wise County Historical Commission Chairwoman Rosalie Gregg has consistently decried the Aurora story as a hoax. Her primary source of information was Etta Pegues. Wayman Reese, who lived 73 of his 83 years in Aurora, told a Dallas reporter, wasn't a thing to it, never was. Them old men, all they had to do was sit around, whittle, and joke. They all knew better. Nobody here believed that stuff. Reese had no direct knowledge of the crash and simply disbelieved the old-timers who spoke of it. Now, Brawley and Etta Oates bought Judge Proctor's property in 1945 and lived there for years.
Gentleman who had a little self-service filling station in Rome, in Aurora, right there in Aurora, Mr. Oates, we used to go by, and he always had a little box that was supposedly the metal that came off the Aurora Spaceman spaceship, and he would give it to us kids, and I kept a little piece of it for years and years and years.
Brawley died about the time the 1973 publicity about Aurora broke. I heard the story for years, said Mrs. Oates, adding, nothing grew for years in that one spot in the field where that spaceship is supposed to have hit.
Proctor was kind of known as a prankster of sorts at times, and he's given some credit for a lot of this, and Mr. Oates was too. And a family that lives in Rome now that used to live in Aurora told me, said, well, that was just something on a rainy day. Aurora used to be a pretty good sized town, and had several saloons and stores and all kinds of things, and they kind of his opinion was that Oates and Proctor got together and trumped the story up along with some others, and they started the whole thing.
The Oates family all suffered serious health problems, including cysts and goiters, which they told me were caused by drinking water from the old well where the crash occurred. I've been told it's radioactive, Mrs. Oates confided to me. Surveying the crash site atop a flat hill just north of Texas Highway 114, I was struck by a circular area that was clearly different from the surrounding countryside. It was almost bare, and what vegetation was there appeared stunted. but there was no proof that anything had crashed. So I decided to track down a primary source. By 1973, as I recall, there were only 3 people still living who may have had direct knowledge of the crash. One was Robbie Benson, who admitted she had no personal knowledge. Another living witness was Mary Evans, who was then almost 92 years old. She told me, I was only 15 at the time and had all but forgotten that incident until it appeared in the papers recently. We were living in Aurora at the time, but my mother and father wouldn't let me go with them when they went up to the crash site at Judge Proctor's well. When they returned home, they told me how the airship had exploded. The pilot was torn up and killed in the crash. The men of the town who gathered his remains said he was a small man, and they buried him that same day in the Aurora cemetery. That crash certainly caused a lot of excitement. Many people were frightened. They didn't know what to expect. That was years before we had any regular airplanes or other kinds of airships. Of these 2 elderly women, neither had any direct knowledge, and one said it happened because her parents told her about it, while the other said it was a hoax, because that's what her father said. Pro, con, you could take your pick. But then there was Charlie C. Stevens. He was 83 in 1973. He told me he had always declined to talk to reporters about the crash because he didn't want to get involved. And finally, after some neighborly conversation, Charlie loosened up and gave this account. As a young boy, less than 10 years old, he was with his father putting some cattle out to pasture on the morning of April the 19th, 1897, when the pair saw a cigar-shaped object with a bright light pass overhead. The craft was very low and moved straight ahead toward Aurora, which was about 3 miles to the north. The pair then heard what seemed to be an explosion, and a fire lit up the northern sky for several minutes. I wanted to go immediately and see what had happened, Charlie recalled, but my daddy said we had to finish the chores.
Well, Charlie's been known to be pretty much a man of his word. You know, hasn't been considered to be a prankster or hoaxer or anything like that. So,
if Stevens was concocting a story, it seemed more likely he would have said that he and his father raced to the scene and given a grand account of the damage. Instead, Stevens said his father rode a horse into town the next day. Returning to the family farm, he described a mass of torn metal and burned rubble. He made no mention of the pilot. According to the contemporary accounts, the pilot was buried the same day as the crash. So when Stevens' father was in town, there was nobody to view. He declined to talk about anything he had not personally seen.
Kind of a time where, you know, you're a man of your word 100%, and, you know, anything outside that, back then, if you didn't see it, it didn't happen.
But the elder Stevens had no trouble talking about the crash. During the years I was growing up, he told me the story many times, recalls Stevens, adding he was almost 20 years old before he heard about the dead pilot.
Interesting.
Detractors of the crash story have argued that it could not have happened because Judge Proctor had no windmill. Stevens responded to this charge by stating, well, it wasn't a windmill. It was a wooden windlass built over the well about 18 feet high, used to haul up the sump, but it was destroyed. Other arguments against the crash were that T.J. Weems of the newspaper accounts was only the town blacksmith. Stevens agreed with this, but said Weems had been in the Army Signal Service and did have an interest and a knowledge of astronomy. A chart of the Masonic cemetery showed no unidentified graves. However, a Mrs. Isla Finlayson, a resident of nearby Rome, who cared for the cemetery in the 1960s and 70s, said many people were buried without headstones and that early maps did not list all the burials. Oh, there are a lot of people out there we don't know about, she told a reporter. So on it went. For every claim, there was a counterclaim. All I was left with was one witness, Stevens, some bits of metal gathered from the crash site, and the grave. Hardly convincing evidence.
Right.
But then the story took an intriguing twist. After analyzing some of the metal from the Aurora crash site, physicist Dr. Tom Gray of the University of North Texas in Denton stated in a news release that at least one fragment may require more investigation. The piece was determined to contain 75% iron and 25% zinc with a few trace elements. The most intriguing aspect of the fragment was that although it was made up primarily of iron, it displayed no magnetic properties. While the fragments were being studied, Bill Case had written further on the Aurora story and had generated interest from the International UFO Bureau. They were excited. We are more convinced than ever that a UFO crashed here and the pilot was killed and buried in this cemetery. Our attorneys are already checking to learn how we might have the body exhumed, Hughes said. I too became excited. An exhumation might settle the matter once and for all, but it was not to be. Despite the fact that no legal action had been taken to seek an exhumation, several Aurora residents, including several cemetery directors, stood guard at the cemetery to prevent any unauthorized digging and threatened a lawsuit against anyone who tried. Well, they're afraid you'll dig up Grandma, explained Decatur attorney Bill Nobles. You see, there was a spotted fever epidemic back in those days, and dozens of Aurorans died. They were dying so fast they were quickly buried, many without markers. They don't want to revive the disease.
All right, let's skip just a little bit to the end and see what happens. Because I'm just as confused now as before. Okay, yes, there is that first, but even that old man, he saw it. He saw it was in the sky and he saw it crash, but he didn't go to the site. His dad went right the next day.
Right. That's true. 1800s work ethic where you got to get the chores done. That's what comes first, and then you go figure out what the hell's happening in town.
Yeah. All right, so I guess maybe he gets to the grave and sees if he finds something.
Don't tell anyone you've seen us. But of course, they run right into town and immediately say, guess what I saw? In recent years, south is almost to Austin. Every single one of these 16 stories is talking about the mysterious airship, the craft that they see sailing through the airs at incredible speeds. Okay, so the whole idea that the Aurora story, which is right here, is simply a hoax, does not hold up. Some of these stories even can carry accounts of having conversations with the spaceship crew that has landed. Okay, and the stories vary. One says we're a secret experiment from a laboratory in New York State. Another one says we come from a secret society living at the North Pole. Another one says, we're on a secret mission to bomb Havana. And yet the commonality between all these stories is don't tell anyone you've seen us. But of course, being human, they run right into town and immediately say, guess what I saw? In recent years, more events have taken place that tend to confirm the story of the Aurora spaceship crash. In 2013, I participated with a TV series, UFO Hunters, and using ground-penetrating radar, they found that, contrary to the debunkers who said it was a hoax and nothing happened, there is a short grave at the gravesite. They can tell this by the disturbance of the ground levels under the grass. Another argument against the Aurora spaceship crash story is that Judge Proctor did not have a windmill. Technically, this might be correct, but he had a windlass. He had a tower that was used for the sump for his pump, did not have a windmill on top of it, apparently, by some accounts, but it was a derrick there. There was a tower. We know this now. This has been proven because we found the footing for the derrick at the location of the well house. To me, one of the most convincing things of all is the strange beads of molten aluminum that has been found at the crash site. In fact, some of them embedded in nearby trees and rocks. This indicates that there was a tremendous explosion at some point at that location. And yet Brawley Oates, who I interviewed back in the 70s, said he bought the place before World War II, in the late 30s, I believe, and that there had been no big explosion there. So whatever happened there happened before the 1930s. Also, the metal content and makeup of this aluminum, while it was aluminum, is not the same as modern aluminum. And I even did some checking on the history of aluminum, and aluminum had only been developed in the past maybe 10 years prior to 1897. And at that time, it was so rare that it was actually cost more than gold. So the idea that somebody would have faked something using aluminum at that time is nearly impossible. So all this combined, I think, shows us that something actually crashed in Aurora in 1897. This was 6 years before the Wright brothers flew. And I think this is the smoking gun of the UFO issue. It's real. They're here. Now all we have to do is figure out what they want. Since it seems obvious that we are being visited.
Of course, it has to be bizarre. And of course, it has to be not conclusive.
Yeah.
But the stories, like, right, they were saying, like, yeah, we're from a secret base. Yeah, we're here to bomb Cuba. Yeah, we're
this
part
is
of a secret society.
This is typical UFO stuff. And, in my mind, that makes complete and total sense.
Yeah.
If aliens were to land here accidentally, if they crashed here, why wouldn't they lie about, what the hell they're doing here?
Yeah. Same would happen if like a U.S. pilot was caught, somewhere. He's going to lie. What are you doing here? He's not going to say exactly what he's doing there.
Right.
Oh, I'm here to spy on you. And yeah, it looks like that's what they were doing. Very strange. 1897. I mean, it's not that long ago. It was almost 1900s. You know,
still pretty long ago. I mean, they're talking about how, basically he's getting his information from grandparents and the stories they had as kids. So it's long enough ago where, in terms of human history, forget about it.
Yeah. Strange case.
Very strange case.
Probably there wasn't a pilot, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there was, and it kind of seems like there would be in a, a UFO crash situation. I just want to know what caused the crash. But if there was something buried there, it was like I said a few minutes ago. I mean, either nothing was buried there, or if it truly was buried there, it got taken away real quick.
So these sightings started in 1896, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what if, because we did have Telegram and it was all across the United States. What if the government was watching these? And I mean, did it stop with that crash in 1897 or did it continue? I forgot what he said, or maybe it did continue after that crash. Because I'm trying to think if they were just they were watching them for a year, whoever, in our government, and maybe try to shoot it down.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. I have a hard time believing our government was so evil that they're monitoring everything that happened back then. But if anything, government's proven that they are in fact that evil and have been for a very long time.
Well, I mean, during the Civil War was won because of Telegram, right? And that was in the 40s, 50s. So they still had another 40 years. I mean, Red Dead Redemption, isn't that in the same?
Yeah,
on the same time.
Yeah, right around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here, this is for our listeners and viewers to go, and this is an amazing document. It's really, really long. We're not going to go through. I just wanted to put the link here. So this guy, he goes 3 years of Harry on Reddit. My estimate of the situation. He goes through the timeline. I mean, in detail. This should be a book. I mean, look at him. He starts with the 1933 Magenta crash. He has like quotes from people, evidence. I mean, the detail of this, I'm really shocked that it's just free on the internet on a Google Doc.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. I had never heard of this guy, but clearly he did his research into all this stuff.
And I mean, just in 1933, look at all these documents. So for every single one, he even goes into the National Security Act, nukes, of course.
That's scans of all the old files.
Yeah, exactly. The Majestic 12 documents as well. But yeah, this is such a great deep dive. You can just do Control F if you want to find anything in particular, and it'll be in there.
Nice.
Like he even said, like he was wondering that if Israel wanted the nuke to protect themselves from UFOs, like he has that in here as well, because the CIA was involved in helping them get that, or the head of the CIA was, and he has that in here as well. So yeah, really cool. Now, of course, Elizondo had his book come out this week.
Yeah, big news. He's been all over the place this past week.
So he's everywhere.
Yeah, he was even on Rogan.
That's right. I haven't heard that one yet. I'm going to soon.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the whole thing. I've heard some clips, but apparently the whole interview is really good.
Awesome. I mean, we have our issues with him, and that's only because he's always talking about the threat. The threat of them. Yeah, they could be a threat, but that's all they're pushing is the threat narrative. So this post is about Kevin Day. Now, Kevin Day was apparently one of the officers on the USS Nimitz. He was the first whistleblower, but now he's upset, and he did several Facebook posts about his colleagues and about that incident. So this post starts saying Kevin Day starts naming names of those involved in the Tic Tac incident. I put those new or not talked about much names in bold. The entire world, this is a quote from him, the entire world is going to know who they are. I have had quite enough of bearing this burden alone. F them, he said. Yeah. I was sworn to track and report all air contacts detected by spy radar, including identification, flight safety, and tactical recommendations. This was my duty, just as it was for everyone else. Yet, I am of the very, very few who truly fulfilled that duty to our country. That is, did our jobs. In return, I lost my career, ended up destitute in the Calmeopsis wilderness, and went through a painful divorce after a 30-year marriage with an ex-wife who even attempted to kill me with a sword. I lost the respect of my fellow warfighters, and endured relentless ridicule. I have faced it all, seemingly in vain. I now realize I was on a misguided quest and should have known that. Most were too cowardly to stand up. Only a few of the pilots and enlisted personnel involved show true courage. And so now, the entire world is going to know who they are. I've had quite enough of bearing this burden alone. So he goes on saying, let's see, aboard the Princeton, the key players were the CO, Tactical Action Officer, Anti-Air Warfare Coordinator, Air Interceptor Controller, and the Electronic Warfare Coordinator. Names to follow. And then he names them.
Oh, wow.
I know. He names Fravor, who did come forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, thank God some of the pilots showed real courage. Fravor is a hero, even though he is an egotistical asshole beyond belief. I am not the only one who knows that. And then he goes to Lieutenant Commander James Slate, Chad Underwood, Carl E. Smith. He names every single one on there.
Wow.
Yeah. The pilots who have come forward are true heroes. However, focusing on them is missing the forest and the trees. The people with the real story were aboard ships dealing with these unknown air contacts for 10 days. The pilots were only involved for perhaps 10 minutes. I know, the Tom Cruise factor. I get it. But that alone demonstrates just how misguided and unserious this entire investigation effort by Congress has been. A concocted hoax designed to scratch an itch, hopefully putting the issue to rest. It failed. I won. Checkmate. In 2004, the captain of the USS Princeton, a
Ticonderoga
class guided missile cruiser in the United States Navy, was Captain Carl E. Smith. He was in command during the famous Tic Tac UFO incident, where the ship's radar systems tracked unidentified flying objects off the coast of Southern California. That's in there. Wait, there's more.
During the 2004 Tic Tac UFO incident involving the USS Princeton, the TAO was Lieutenant Commander Jason J. Turner. As a TAO, he was responsible for overseeing the ship's combat operations, including managing the radar and tracking systems that detected the UFOs. It's been almost 20 years. I'm just looking to see if there's anything of interest here. He basically is just going on to say that he's really upset about the fact that no one came forward until it was like cool to come forward.
Because and then only two, right?
Yeah. And just judging from the very first part of his post, it seems like he was judged and ridiculed for what happened during this time, for coming forward and talking about what happened during this.
It sucks. People that tell the truth always get hurt
every single time
in this system.
Every single time.
Yeah, I think this is just the same thing. Yeah, that's him again. So it's the same thing. Ooh, who's this guy?
Oh, you.
Wow. I wanted to see. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Day said groups of 10 objects were repeatedly detected 80,000 feet above them, where the Earth's atmosphere becomes space, dropping down to 20,000 feet in less than a second. Then following the ships by flying through the air at a relatively leisure 150 miles per hour before zooming off towards Guadalupe Island off the coast of Mexico, where they seem to disappear under the sea.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they originated from sub-Earth orbit. They came in groups of 5 to 10 at a time. If you add up all the groups, it was about 100 contacts.
Yeah.
I mean, the Nimitz incident is so impressive because there's this radar there.
Oh yeah, no, they had it all.
Different sensors. Yeah, so it's not just the pilots who took that footage,
right,
for that 10 minutes. That was at the end. They told them, okay, could you guys go and check them out? It was a 10-day period.
As always, so much more to the story.
So here's Guadalupe Island.
Nice.
And here's San Diego, Tijuana.
Baja, California.
Sean Cahill, Chief Master at Arms. Yeah, so sonar as well. So the source said the sub-sonars caught the UFOs traveling at more than 400 knots or 460 miles per hour through the water in the vicinity of the ships.
Yeah, wow. I mean, we've discussed it to death on the show, but these craft seem to have maneuverability capabilities far beyond our own.
Yeah, and if it was us, why would we be messing with our ships that way?
Right.
All right, so I guess we can move on to Mr. Elizondo.
All right, great.
Yeah, he's been making the rounds, many interviews. He was on CBS Good Morning, right? He's been on, like you said, Rogan. Ross Coulthard yesterday or this morning released an interview with him as well, and this one's from the Daily Mail. Do you want to go through the video of the interview?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, I think there's some new stuff in there.
That'll sum it up perfectly.
Katsky during the early time when he was, I think, assessing me is probably what they were doing. See if I would be a good fit. And I remember him very distinctly at the end of the conversation. He pulled his glasses down and he looked over his glasses at me and he said, "What do you think about UFOs?" And I paused for a moment and I responded truthfully. I said, "I don't." And he said, "Well, do you not believe in them?" And I said, "No, I didn't say that. You asked me if I thought about what do I think about UFOs, and I said I don't. I don't have the luxury to think about them. I'm too busy, trying to chase bad guys and make things work." And he said to me, he said, "Well, that's fair enough, but don't let your own personal bias get the best of you, because what you may learn here, may challenge any preconceived notions or narratives that you have." And that's really when I first learned what this program was about. We were getting multiple reports, a lot of reports of UAP. We call them UAP now, but in the vernacular, UFOs were being encountered over controlled U.S. airspace and theaters of combat, and were posing, in some cases, a flight safety risk to our pilots. Now, what do I mean by that? So we have reports and videos, in some cases, of these UAP, UFOs, splitting a combat formation. Now, if you know what a combat formation is, these aircraft fly very close to each other in a combat scenario, right? So they're like this. When you have a UAP splitting the formation, that's problematic. Furthermore, we have countless reports of these things being encountered over controlled U.S. airspace, over sensitive military facilities and installations. And we had no idea where these things were from. The origin, we had no clue. Their performance characteristics were stunning. These were beyond next generation technology. These were things that could perform in ways that outperformed anything that we had in our inventory, and we were pretty sure outperformed anything that our adversaries had. We were getting these routine pleas, these cries from the field. In fact, I remember one email very specifically where one of the senior people in the fleet, a very senior officer, basically said, "Look, these things are all over the ship. I don't know what to tell you. I can't keep people below deck forever and keep this a secret. What do you want me to do?" We keep telling them, "Look, the cavalry's coming. We've got these plans in place to help you out." And every time we would want to get this briefed up to a higher level, we were being stovepiped and then cut off. We actually had at one point a trap set up to collect information on these UAP. I can only talk about it because I've now had approval by the Pentagon to talk about it. It has now been cleared for me to talk about it. But we had a plan to set up a real big nuclear footprint, something we knew would be irresistible for these UAP. And then once we started seeing these UAP, with the trap would be sprung. Congress is being briefed.
Wait. So they wanted to trap these UFOs by having a nuclear footprint, and then once they come in, they'll just trap them like flies.
I think it's less of a trap like you're thinking, and more of a give them a place to go so we can study them.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they're like, they don't have some like Wile E. Coyote machine that's going to be like,
Okay, because that's what he showed at his hands.
yeah.
I get, but why are they so attracted to nuclear? I mean, maybe
I
they
don't know.
are a part of some land management system, or where they, they're like custodians of Earth or something, and they want to, make sure that it's protected. And
I mean, that's the big question. But again, if these are truly aliens, we wouldn't never understand their motivations. I mean, maybe radiation is like catnip to them.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It could be free energy for them to like recharge also.
Yeah. Or, maybe it's just playing cards for them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something so benign, something we wouldn't even consider being important, but it is to them.
So bizarre.
Fairly routinely by whistleblowers. Some of them have not been made public yet. New whistleblowers are ready to come out, provided they had the right legal protection.
Very soon.
Oh, we were told by the people who had the material. I mean, it's kind of when they sit there and say, "Yeah, look, we're happy to have this conversation with you. There's some things that you're going to need to do if you want, more access to it. But yeah, we're happy to give this stuff to you." That's a big deal. That's kind of I'm careful what I say here, but that's a holy cow moment, right? But you could probably put some expletives in there if you wanted to. That's a seismic revelation. Then, of course, then you have the material science and analysis that's been done on some of this material, which, look, despite what some people say now, like, oh, well, this was a missile casing from the 1950s. I know for a fact, because I had a member, and I'm not going to say which company, but let's just say one of the most elite aerospace corporations in the world do analysis on it. And I can tell you that what they came to a conclusion with, and after they actually was able to manufacture at a macro, very crude level at over $1 million and broke the machine in the process, we know conclusively this was not technology that was manufactured in the 1950s by some sort of missile company. Look, because you look.
He's talking about Aero and Kirkpatrick here because they recently released the test on some metal, saying that it was shell casings from the 1950s. Yeah, I'm sure that's what he's referring to.
Yeah,
is
our
like friend Kirkpatrick. So I'm still when it comes to Elizondo, I'm 50-50 with the guy. And I believe him, but then I think he puts things in there probably to grab attention of Congress and the government to take this seriously.
Yeah, that's definitely what it seems like. And as soon as you start, like framing it as national security, that the whole point is to just get attention, by the government.
Right. And it seems like they want more funding and a new enemy, since we've, almost exhausted all the enemies on Earth.
Yeah.
If you look at it temporally and say, well, maybe the Russians have that technology now. Okay, sure. Let's suspend reality and say they do. But they didn't in the late 1940s. And so that would be like walking into King Tut's tomb and, Carter finding a fully assembled 747. I think it's pretty clear that when you first see Trump being asked about the topic, he said, yeah, I don't particularly believe it. But interestingly, the next time he was asked, he's like, hey, there's something there. There's something to it, right? There were some very peculiar incidents that occurred simultaneously while I was involved in the ATIP portfolio. And I'll tell you, it wasn't just me. A lot of the folks in ATIP experienced very similar things. It was witnessed by friends, neighbors. What the connection is, I can't tell you for sure. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But we experienced, my family, my kids, my wife, some neighbors saw these green little diffuse balls of light, luminous balls of light. Think of a volleyball, but without hard edges, right? Floating through the house. You can call them an orb, I guess. You can call them, maybe some sort of drone or remote operated vehicle. I've never seen anything like it. But I guess some people describe it as like ball lightning, maybe. But a diffuse green orb ball just hover right down the hall and disappear right through a wall. What if any, the connection is to the UAP. I don't know. I'm just reporting it in the book so people know, right? If you're going to be transparent, you got to be as transparent as you can to include even in your own life, and even if it makes you look kind of crazy, that's what happened. And if it was just me, maybe I wouldn't have written about it. But the fact that it happened to other colleagues of mine that were in ATIP, I wanted to share that experience. And again, is there a congruency? Is there a relationship between the two? I don't know.
Yeah, there probably is. Remember that guy that Doty was basically convinced him that he's crazy and committed suicide. Doty tells a story when they first went to like Bennewitt's house, and they were interviewing him, that he did see something similar. Like he would see balls of lights going forward, but they wouldn't even tell Bennewitt's about it. You know, like the partner that he was with would nudge him and say, "What the hell's that?" And there'll be like stuff just, you know, in the house, roaming around.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine experiencing something like that, because it's, you know, like a UFO. You go, okay, that's a UFO. That's an alien. That's an alien. But little balls of light floating around your domicile there's just no rhyme or reason to it. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, it seems like they're gathering intelligence.
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly. Especially if you're involved in studying them, then they want to study you, kind of thing.
Yep.
Weird. Well, he said a lot there. I think a lot of it he says in the Coulthard interview, which I'm surprised is only 42 minutes. Like I thought it was going to be like 2 or 3 hours, the interview, but it's not that long. I think the Rogan interview is longer.
It is.
Right. Usually YouTube tells us what's most watched, but it's not in this case. Right? You know what I mean? Where it tells you, it has a graph. But I mean, we pretty much heard everything Elizondo said. I mean,
yeah, and hopefully people at home are paying attention to Elizondo's story, because I mean, this is breaking news right now.
Right. Yeah. I did download Imminent on Audible. So far it's a really good book. There's nothing new in there. You know, it might be just like a 101 course kind of thing. He does talk about Roswell, that it's real.
Cool.
Yeah, and that there were and this was approved by the Pentagon to be released.
It still is shocking to me that you have to go to the Pentagon to approve something. I mean, I get, you know, national security. You don't want to give a tip as to where all of our nuclear bases are, but something like this, I'm amazed even Elizondo went along with it. You know?
Yeah.
But I guess he's trying to do it the quote unquote right way.
Right, because he still has his clearances. So if you want to keep your clearances, you have to do that.
Yeah.
So, which, I mean, if he still has a clearance, it means he's still in government, working for them. So John Greenwald at the Black Vault got these last week.
Yeah, I mean, he's been big. You know, he's pushing to use the FOIA to get this stuff unearthed, which we've discussed on an earlier show. We, you know, just don't think that's a right way to go about it. But he definitely uncovered something here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, here he goes to the story where he goes, after years of bureaucratic obstacles. I mean, it took him, I think, 4 years to get this document, and that's back and forth of them saying, "Oh, we found nothing. Oh, there's nothing there." And I think he just kept at it, and they finally released to him a memo. Where is it? This one right here.
The department has maintained a strategic advantage over its adversaries by remaining cognizant of and investing in new emerging technologies, especially in the area of aerospace. In 2008, U.S. Congress provided DoD funding for the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, focusing on next-generation technologies in the areas of lift, propulsion, cloaking, and human effects. DoD continues to consider ATIP a priority, especially given recent advancements with unmanned aerial surveillance platforms that are becoming widely available. As the principal staff assistant to the Secretary of Defense for all intelligence and security functions, the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence has demonstrated interest for any and all reporting involving anomalous UAS threats from the departments and defense agencies for the purpose of intelligence analysis and exploitation.
There it is.
Wow. Yeah. As such, all DoD elements are hereby required to provide a courtesy copy of any data and information obtained from the field that relates to unexplained or unknown aerial systems to the Director of Defense Intelligence for technical collection and special programs.
There we go.
Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence.
Yeah. So for years they said that this did not exist. For years they said ATIP did not exist.
Exactly.
And now this comes out. I mean, why do they keep doing this? They're just playing with the public, just to confuse them on purpose.
Largely, the public is pretty damn stupid.
Yeah, but even the ones paying attention, like, it confuses us. All of this, you know. One time ATIP doesn't exist. One time it's OSAP. One time it's only what's his name, Lakatsky, who's doing OSAP, and you know they have to get this letter.
We see the government do this all the time. Recent example that woke a lot of people up was everything that happened with COVID. Oh, it didn't come from China. Oh, it didn't come from a lab. You're racist or sexist or, homophobic if you think that, or something equally as stupid, and now it comes out that that's pretty much common knowledge. Oh, everyone. Yeah, of course it came from a lab. We were saying that from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, they're liars. They always are.
Yeah. Just covering up their own asses and confusing the public. Getting old though. I don't think it works in the age of the internet and podcasts.
It's working less and less. Although watching this election season is pretty wild because there are still a lot of people that this works on.
Like, I just can't believe what's going on with politics. It's just
tell me about it.
So frustrating, man. Well, I mean, we'll talk about it later. I mean, quickly. I mean, RFK Jr. what he did. I mean, that was really cool. And now there's a unity party.
Well, kind of. We'll see.
Yeah. You never know what happens when he gets in, right? He might just forget about him. So there's updates of this. So after publication of this article, Pentagon spokesperson Susan Go submitted comment by stating Luis Elizondo had no assigned responsibilities for ATIP, as noted in the Historical Record Report, Volume 1. She's talking about Arrow here. So she references Arrow. Available right here. Was never an official recognized DoD program. The draft unsigned memo for the record that you referenced was crafted by Mr. Elizondo and appears to have been unsolicited. Given the opportunity to respond to the above, Elizondo added, the memo they claim was unsolicited was in fact a request by none other than the Secretary's front office staff. Not only is the DoD spokesperson wrong, but any due diligence on their part would have illustrated this. This is yet another sad attempt to once again deceive the American people by a select few in the Pentagon's PAO. Unfortunately, this type of behavior conducted by a few bad faith individuals only further damages the credibility of an organization who has very little credibility left to offer. The sad truth is that this type of behavior reflects poorly on the entire Pentagon, including the majority who are patriotic, loyal, and selfless. Fortunately, the truth always has a way to come out. So Greenwald and Elizondo are friends again, by the way. they did fight before.
Yikes.
Yeah, but now they've made up. And then another one, after the publication of this article, Pentagon spokesperson Susan Go submitted comment by stating, as indicated in the response letter to you dated December 14, 2021, regarding 21F0964, the initial FOIA search did not yield responsive records. Given the opportunity to respond to the above, Elizondo added, "This response isn't even worthy or a response. It's clear that obfuscation and deceit is the new norm for the same few at the PAO office. I would once again remind them that propaganda and disinformation is against the American public is illegal." So there's that. Breaking news. Good on John Greenwald.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is all really good information. I'm happy he was able to dig this up, no matter how long it took.
And he always catches them in lying and covering up.
Yeah, that's not hard.
But yet, right? And if there was nothing to this, why the cover up? If there's nothing to UAPs and aliens, why the cover up? Exactly.
And hopefully everyone is asking that question in their heads, even though I know they're not. They see, they they get told what to think when they watch the news, unfortunately.
So also this happened. This guy, and we'll go through who he is. Harold Malmgren. He put on Twitter.
Yes, 60 plus years ago, he was provided the highest level classifications to lead DoD work on nuclear weapons and anti-missile defense, and formally briefed on quote-unquote otherworld technologies by CIA's Richard Bissell, who had been in charge of Skunk Works, Area 51, Los Alamos, etc., but sworn to secrecy.
So I mean, this guy, here he is. He was a former advisor to George W. Bush. Yeah. Wrote an article last year claiming physical material and craft have also been retrieved from space. Quote, Grush's story is the first of many planned disclosure interviews. The decision to go public has been made, and now there's no going back.
I don't know. If they were to go public, they would go public, not this stuff. I mean, Elizondo he's technically mainstream, but also kind of he gets disregarded because he's a UFO guy. I mean, if they really wanted to go mainstream, the White House would make a statement.
And that's who should. Exactly.
They would wheel Joe Biden out there to rant about corn pop
and ice cream.
And talk about Kamala, and then also UFOs are real.
Yeah, and that's what's going to take. Unfortunately, people are just going to read all this and go, "Okay, yeah, it's just someone else saying the same thing they've been saying for decades and decades." Exactly. Where's the proof? Although the president can come and just say something with no proof at all, then that'll be taken as
fact.
Yes, exactly.
Every single time. Yep.
Yeah. So, and that's probably not going to happen. Not with these people in charge. Trump. Who knows? I mean, this stuff is 2017 and the New York Times article and all that started in the Trump administration, right? His secretary, not Secretary of Defense, was it Deputy of Defense? I forget, but he was always on Fox News saying that they had these anomalous objects, and they were very open about it back then. And then it was all closed again. Here's a good article about. It's from Christianity magazine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Evidence for UFOs is mounting, but some Christians worry they're demonic. How can we discern the truth? Again, this is a topic we have covered many times on this show.
Yeah, and he asks Elizondo, actually. Yeah, we know about this. Nothing human can make a 90-degree turn at 3,000 miles an hour. Yes. Okay. But would the proven existence of life elsewhere in the universe pose a threat to the Christian faith as many fear? Not at all. I agree with other scholars and theologians who believe no core doctrine would be undermined. The discovery of life beyond this planet would not threaten the truth of Christianity. It could even be an opportunity for the church to glory in the fact that the choir which praises the Creator is much larger than any of us had imagined.
I mean, it is a pretty it's pretty wild to think about. What's the thing in the Bible? Man was created in God's image.
Yep.
And then that's obviously that is largely that can be interpreted in many different ways.
Right.
Because no one truly knows what God's image is, right? But it's supposed that God looks like a man. But I mean, that's kind of ridiculous thinking about it,
Right. I mean, in a multi-dimensional world, though, I mean, if they say the universe is inside you, then we are probably inside God also. So it's just like a fractal that goes up, all the way up and down. Obviously, we have flaws, though. We're not godlike. But I would say, Christianity and Islam both are universal religions, right? So I don't think they will be threatened. Judaism would be threatened because it's more of a tribal religion and that they're chosen and that would have issues, I think.
They're chosen to rape and kill little kids.
Yes, of course, who are not part of the tribe. So I want to get to, he does ask, the demon hypothesis. So there is that group within the Pentagon, right, called the Collins Elite. Here it is. I asked Elizondo, Okay, yeah. I asked Elizondo whether these intelligence officials presented any evidence for their demon hypothesis. The answer was no. Quote, there was no real logic, he said. I did not understand why they did not want to look at the data further. And for Elizondo, that's the rub. The idea that this could be just swept aside on the basis of religious assumptions was flabbergasting. But he tries to understand the other side's point nonetheless. This was clear from the question he asked me. If you thought God told you this was demonic, wouldn't you be afraid? Elizondo admits that everyone needs to be open to the various hypotheses, including the spiritual ones. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is demonic, he said. But either way, we need to investigate further to find out. I mean, yes, some aspects of it could be seen as it's all about perspective, right? When it comes to like what's evil and what's not. To a lot of people that do evil, they justify it.
Yeah,
They don't
every
think
time.
it's evil.
I know it's yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that humans being abducted, we can see that as being evil, but to the aliens doing it, it might be a necessity.
Right.
Oh
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, think about, for instance, like lab rats. I mean, technically, it's torture.
That's evil. Yeah,
it's for a greater cause. We're trying to discover brains and tensions and things like that. But it is from the rats. From the mice or rats perspective, it is evil.
Exactly. Yeah, from that perspective. So that's when you talk about evil and demonic. These things are, they could be argued.
Yeah, and again, we've touched on this before. I mean, to a medieval human being, without the technology we have today, I mean, what is an alien abduction? It's demons, because they don't look like humans, but they resemble that of a man. And they're experimenting on you, which you would believe is evil.
They take you without your will.
Right, exactly.
And many people are they're paralyzed too, so you really can't do anything about it, which is a nightmare. To be paralyzed and you can't move.
Yeah, that would be the worst. Palmdale.
Yeah.
Palmdale UFO scare leads to revelations about mystery drone incursions over secretive plant 42. Now, I have never heard of secretive plant 42.
Me too, until recently, and apparently it's a skunk works. Very secret skunkworks plant.
That tracks.
So, and this follows, and I'm sure you saw the videos last week, where they said there was lots of sightings in California and people probably thought it was drones. And then there was there was three different ones. There was one that completely looked like drones. There was other ones with lights, different lights, like blue and red lights, and then there was one that showed, I don't know, like 50 lights, like white lights in the sky.
Yeah, it was crazy stuff.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if something really did happen, and then like counter intel sent in drones, just
drones.
Yeah, just to muddy the water and say, oh, it was all drones.
Yeah, why not?
So Palmdale Regional Airport shares the runway with Plant 42, which is home to Lockheed Martin's famed skunk works. So were they testing something?
We all know Lockheed Martin has never done anything wrong or illegal.
Right. And the B-21, this one right here, that's where it was made there. And that is a cool looking.
I was going to say, that is a really cool looking plane. It does. I know it's, triangle shaped, but from that angle, it looks like it could be seen as a UFO.
Like a saucer.
Yeah.
And it probably uses electrogravitics. So we have observed multiple uncrewed aerial systems activities over Plant 42 during the last few months. The number of UASs fluctuated and they ranged in size and configuration. So, who could be doing this? And who has the cojones to do it? The FAA was made aware of the incursions, and Edwards continues to monitor the airspace to ensure the safety of base personnel, facilities, and assets. As a reminder to drone enthusiasts, overflight of Plant 42 is strictly prohibited and may result in criminal prosecution, fines, and loss of operator privileges. I don't get this. They really have, the FAA has to put this out there. They can't find out where the drones are coming from and go to those houses or those people and say, listen, you can't be doing this. Yeah. It's just weird.
Very weird. Very, very weird. Yeah, it's so secretive. obviously, whatever.
Yeah. So, and that was on August 14th. Was it on August 14th this year? And it'll be lifted by September 15th. So they're definitely testing something.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, so it could be then. And here's the FAA notice. And then what's this? Temporary, yeah. And then here's the report. Numerous people reporting UFO sightings in the sky, with reports of 6 flying saucers zigzagging in the sky.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were asked about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they had no answers.
We've not received any UAP reports, but we take such reports seriously. Yeah, doubtful. Well, not publicly. They don't take them seriously.
Yeah, and then there was Michael Schratt had a presentation. I don't have it queued up, but he did a presentation about some witness to in Palmdale to 142, and what he witnessed. I think it was in the 90s or something. It was a really cool story. Again, just a story, right? That's all we have these days.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to get concrete proof?
No, we're not.
I mean, these individuals just come out.
I've lost all faith.
Yeah, I know. The whole it's coming out soon. Oh, whistleblowers, more whistleblowers are coming soon.
And, cut to nothing happening.
As usual.
Yep.
I think that's what happens in this community, especially with researchers. They get tired. And they're like, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I'm not reporting on it anymore. And they all come back, though.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the drone? Oh, here's the drone footage. So UFO over Northern California near a military base.
It's not playing on my screen. I don't know if it is on yours. Oh, there we go.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Hip Hop X-Files theme? I was kind of down.
Very strange.
Yeah, definitely. Just bizarre.
Bizarre stuff. Lights in the sky. Yeah. And it is zigzagging weirdly.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely moving. Not like you'd expect, but it definitely does, look like a drone.
Yeah, because they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what this is. Same thing. Yeah, it's nothing like a drone can't do, because they can take off quickly. Yeah, they can zigzag.
Mm-hmm.
But they do make noise. Maybe not at those distances.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to hear it.
Yeah, this one has no noise. Going back there. Another dramatic video that grabbed a lot of attention claimed to show something in the sky over the Palmdale, Lancaster area this past weekend, looking to be footage of Pokemon-themed drone light show. But that was in Hawaii.
Yeah, that was a real dumb excuse, for the media to come up with.
Yeah, especially that wasn't in California.
Right.
So the alleged Palmdale, California UFO video. I mean, that is really cool that they were able to do that.
Oh, definitely.
Very cool.
Do, 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 do. Yeah.
Look at that. Not bad.
Yeah, it's very, very cool footage. Yeah. But again, this was happening in Hawaii, and the sightings were in California. And for those of you who don't know, California, really long ways away from Hawaii.
Yeah, 5 hours by plane, right, or something.
You can't see things that are happening on Hawaii when you're in California.
Right. Oh, there's the music.
Bro, what the fuck?
Okay, so this is what they actually saw.
Right.
That does look like drones.
It does, for sure. Like I get the reason as to why. Whoa.
It's falling.
Huh. That's
when
wild.
You thought you were watching drones, but it turned into a UFO. Oh, and there's that one.
I mean, I still think those are drones. I just don't think they're the Hawaii drones.
Right, yeah. Agreed. What's this? Also note the similarities between the street view of the Hawaiian boat dock. Pay particular attention to the street lights that are 100% match. It appears that the Palmdale UFO footage is the Hilton Hawaiian drone show footage. Oh yeah, good point. FYI, Palmdale is 1 hour from a beach. They do have a lake, but not any boats of this size in the video.
So it was footage that was filmed in Hawaii, and then they claimed it was from Palmdale.
Yeah.
Palmdale, come back to me.
But there was something that happened on Planet 42.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, the fact that they shut down all the airspace around it just goes to show that that was a real thing.
Yeah, and this is from the war zone, so they don't usually talk about UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the craft that have been flying over Planet 42 recently turned out to be benign, it still underscores the ever-growing threats that uncrewed aerial systems present on and off traditional battlefields. So who would be doing this? Who is the crazy person doing this?
Right.
Why would you mess with U.S. bases? I mean, even in like GTA, that's it. You're done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be particularly crazy or rich, and you just don't care. But I can't see a rich person doing something like this. It just is stupid.
Yeah. I sent you this from New Fork. There was a sighting in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I think they saw beings too, or was it beams? Lights on objects, aura or haze, left a trail, emitted beams, changed colored, aircraft nearby, missing time, animals reacted.
Once again, it is next to a Boeing facility, so next to a aerial manufacturer, which is always interesting because it means they're working on something super secret.
Yeah, I mean, what else could it be? Or they're spying on them doing that. So this guy was, yeah.
No, go ahead.
It's not that long actually. I was with my twin brother. We had just purchased a new laser. Oh yeah, don't try this, people.
Don't.
Yeah, he pointed around. This was around 3 a.m. at signs and wanted to see how far it could go. It was my turn with the laser. I couldn't see the moon, but all the stars and planets. I pointed the laser on the highest setting at the Little Dipper, 2 planets and other star formations. As soon as I closed my eyes, I could feel a presence, multiple actually, and I knew immediately something was looking for us. As my eyes were closed, I could see myself from third person. I could see my twin brother standing near me, and then I saw from what I only assume is the beings or UAP UFOs point of view, but it wasn't like ours. They could spot my energy and laser, but not entirely. Up to this point, I've never felt anything like this before or seen this with my eyes closed. Not 5 seconds later, we both witnessed what looked at first like moving stars, moving erratically at first, but then still it seems towards us. Man, how come no one can write well? Use ChatGPT or something. They got extremely close, within 5 to 10 miles out of the sky. We saw what looked like orbs, some illuminated orange, yellow, white, and some blue. The ones that were orange and white moved fast in circles. The ones white and blue seemed hesitant to come closer. The others felt like they were almost communicating with us through feelings and close-eye thoughts. I would tell them to come closer, and some would come close and then zip away extremely fast. Others seemed to be humorously coming to us in force. That's when I noticed 2 to 3 military Air Force jets. 2 looked like modern ones, and 1 was in the shape of a triangle with 3 lights in a triangle and green and red lights, which I knew to be human origin. As soon as they came out, they looked to be chasing the crafts. Spheres and orb light formations, a wave, and moving extremely fast. The triangle military jet moved almost at the same speed as one orange orb, and that's when we saw spotlights in the sky and flashes of light by the military jets. It looked like some kind of weapon they used to deter UAPs. I've never seen anything like this. I have several pictures and videos, and no star could mimic this movement or seem to respond to different words and commands. Just as they came, it looked like they started to overwhelm the Air Force jets, and we saw several large bright lights in the cloud lighting up the clouds and disappearing fast. When we looked up, we could see a mass formation of UFOs, all synchronic. Just as that happened, we saw what appeared to be a massive meteor zipping past the clouds and formations. This happened very fast, and as we looked around, we couldn't believe that we were seeing cars were going past our neighborhood, but nobody else was looking up. No one does.
Weird.
This was 2 nights, and ever since I haven't been able to get any sleep. I keep feeling them watching me at night, and me and my brother have been arguing because he doesn't want to talk about it to try to initiate it again with the laser X. I truly have a feeling that for contact to be made, you must have an open mind and another person with you in the same frame of mind, open and not conceiving any negative ideas of them or what they could be. And felt it was perfect. Everything lined up. The moon wasn't even outside. And I feel like they could come back if my twin brother would actually put aside his ego or infuriated or possibly even annoyed by his wayside nonchalant doesn't matter. Still have to work at fast food mindset. I have videos and so does he. I went through frame by frame and have some very interesting pictures. It's not very clear, by the way. This was August 22nd.
That one right, right in that in front.
Just a couple days ago.
See that one?
Yeah, that's too bad. Lights in the sky footage is never good.
Show me them.
Right.
I can see it. They're showing themselves to me. Look up. There's many of them. They're showing themselves now.
There are a lot of them.
I'm pointing the laser at them. I'm friendly. Oh my god, dude. Look up. Look up.
I wonder if he left out they smoked a joint.
Right there. They just keep coming.
Not very clear.
Fucking fleet of them.
Yeah, no, not great. Yeah, anytime you film with your phone at night, you're not going to get anything worthwhile.
No. Danny Sheehan, did you watch that interview? It's crazy. I didn't finish it. I only got halfway into it.
I did not watch it, no.
Okay, we won't definitely watch it. If you have just put it on. If you're doing something for 3 hours, put it on. You have to hear the stuff he talks about. And I don't think Jesse believes him at least 75% of the time. You can just tell by his face the way he's looking at Danny. Yeah, but still, it was a great interview. It looks like he flew him over to his place and he stayed there for a couple days and hung out. Yeah,
nice.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what Whitley Strieber used to do with people who didn't believe that he had UFOs visiting him at his cabin.
He just used to invite them over?
Yeah, I think at least. I don't, I'm kind of making that up. I don't think that's true. But people who stayed at his cabin definitely saw some of the crazy shit that he was seeing.
I mean, yeah, in communion, it happened when people were at the house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so here's some breaking news on the MH370. Ashton Forbes sent a FOIA request to the NSA, and they rejected everything he asked for, which is strange.
Very strange.
I mean, what would be the reason for that? If there's nothing to it and it crashed.
Right.
So my inquiry into Registered Anon, which is the account that leaked the footage, was rejected, quote, in the interest of national defense or foreign relations under Section 3.6. An agency may refuse to confirm or deny the existence or non-existence of requested records whenever the fact of their existence or non-existence is itself classified. What a weird law. Yeah, so and he has the letters.
Wow.
FOIA letters. They completely rejected everything.
Huh. I mean, it's not all that surprising to me. Unfortunate though, for sure. They just love hiding this kind of stuff behind quote unquote national security. I mean, that's always what the government does.
And their capabilities, right? I mean, especially if something happened in 2000. What was this? 2014? No.
Yeah. God, it's been a decade already, hasn't it?
Yeah, 2014, and they already have satellites in deep space looking at Earth, and it's constantly monitoring, especially if it's a plane that's especially after 9/11. Planes are all monitored.
Yeah.
So they definitely know what happened to it.
Definitely.
Whether it crashed or if orbs took it into a wormhole, they know.
Yeah, I still love that video. I mean, I know it was pretty much proven fake, but I do love that video.
Really? I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff. I'm not 50-50 anymore. I'm probably 75% leaning it's right, I mean it's true, and then hoax. Because the only evidence of the hoax, first of all, no one else has been able to reproduce it, even though they tried.
The biggest thing that I saw that made me conclude it was a hoax is someone had found the like in the
explosion, you mean?
They
the
had
explosion, the wormhole.
Yeah, they had found that exact same cloud in pictures that can be used like stock photos. You can
The stock photos, yeah.
That was
but even that one, because they went in the Wayback Machine and they even went to the old database and they couldn't find when they were originally uploaded. So it's even weirder on there too. And I wouldn't put it past the National Security State to go and do that and say, "Oh, look, they're here."
That's true.
But Ash has been doing some great work, especially on free energy and high-tech devices.
We need people like this.
Yeah, he's done a great job with that. Here's a great article about the dangerous gamble suppressing science at the hidden cost of UAP secrecy. And yes, that is the problem with UAP secrecy. It's not just the craft, but it's the actual science that's suppressed.
Right.
And mathematics.
Oh man, I mean, how many times do we have to go down this road? Whatever goes against the current story has to be suppressed, has to be censored. They love it. They absolutely love doing this.
And we have the national. Wait, no, not the patent. It's the one about they can seize patents for national security reasons. I forget what it's called now. But here it goes. The suppression of scientific research for the sake of national security is a double-edged sword. On one side, the government's responsibility to protect its citizens from existential threats justifies some level of control over sensitive technologies. In areas like AI, where the stakes are incredibly high, it's understandable that the government would want to prevent these tools from being weaponized by adversaries or used in ways that could destabilize global security.
Of course.
Have you used AI?
No.
No.
I mean, I have just to goof around and make a couple photos, but that's it. We use it at work to sum up meetings, but I haven't used it.
Like Otter AI, that one?
Yeah, Otter AI. Yeah, that's one we use. Yeah, it sums up meetings. It's great. It tells you everything you weren't paying attention to, and anytime someone says, "Hey, you need to do this," it comes up as like one of the bullet points.
Isn't that nuts? That even says like who it's assigned to. That
exactly. Yeah, it's cool. But no, I have no true experience using AI.
Oh, you should definitely try prompting it. It's fun.
I don't know what I'd use it for.
I mean, the thing is, it does have rail guards on it, and we'll try to push it back. But then you can convince it. I mean, you can have fun with conversations with it.
Maybe I'll get one of those AI girlfriends.
Oh, man, those apparently are making lots of money.
I believe it.
Sad.
It's really sad. It's really sad.
They'd rather talk to a machine than a real person.
Ay, caramba.
So the notion that entire areas of mathematics could be classified is alarming. Mathematics is considered the language of science, the foundation upon which all technological progress is built. To classify math is to stifle the very essence of scientific inquiry. If such a precedent is set with AI, what's to stop the government from expanding these secrecy orders to other critical fields of study? Quantum computing, synthetic biology, or any other field perceived as a national security threat could be next on the chopping block. I mean, it's not a surprise that we're still stuck in the 50s,
Yeah.
As a society.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer in that sense, for sure.
But it's for national security.
Ugh. So sick of that term.
Well, we're at 2 hours, but we can quickly go through things. This is a reference guide from the Major Cities Chief Association. It's a UAP national reference guide.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they go through the whole history of it.
Huh.
Yeah, UAP in the news. So if you're a police officer, they send this out to you, and you'll get a good brief of UAPs and UFOs.
Wow.
How to report them. Yeah, law enforcement considerations.
Very interesting. I mean, so there's precedent in place to, what to do when you see a UFO.
Yeah, exactly. And they want them to be informed and knowledgeable about it.
Mm-hmm.
UAP related calls for service, aviation safety, U.S. government UAP programs. They go through all the Roswell incident. Look at that. They talk about that too.
Cool. Wow.
2000 to present.
Project Twinkle. What? I've never heard of that.
Me neither. Where you caught that?
Established in the summer of 1949 to investigate a series of UFO reports witnessed by. Okay, so it's just a predecessor to Project Blue Book. It looks like.
Okay, yeah. Roswell,
these UFOs were described as green fireballs streaking across the sky, moving in odd ways, and in at least one account, the fireball navigated near an aircraft. Whoa, that's cool.
It sucks that after all these studies, after all these years, it ends up with Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows the devolution.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, it sucks.
And then what's here? Pretty slow website.
Well, that's cool. I mean, our listeners can go and check this out. There's a lot of good information to go through here.
Yeah, it's nice that they're giving that information to law enforcement.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So this engine has traveled 200 years in time. It runs on a fuel that Edison predicted and Musk wants to develop.
Ooh. They're about to get shut down by the oil industry, just like every other engine that doesn't run on oil.
Yeah, and apparently it uses nuclear fusion, but with water.
Very cool. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, the base thruster it's called Firestar drive, produces high-speed protons by converting water vapor through ionization. So it produces protons. So it's a nuclear fusion pulsed plasma electric propulsion unit. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool. Yeah, I hope we get to see this implemented in our lifetime.
And it makes sense now why some UFOs go around water and suck up water. They probably use something very similar.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that would make a whole lot of sense. And especially on Earth, I mean, water is abundant.
Yeah, 70% of the planet is
as long as they have some sort of desalinization thing, but I'm sure they do.
Right. So in detail, yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I hope we get to see more of this kind of this type of fuel being used, because oil sucks and gas is expensive, but water damn cheap.
Exactly, and it's everywhere.
Yep.
And if you can have a fusion device for your home, wouldn't that be amazing? Just
man.
Just fill it up with water and that's it.
Yeah, but you just know, some electric company is going to buy it and jack the prices way up. So even though it costs them less than a penny to implement, it costs the final user $100 a day to use.
And it'll be illegal to gather rainwater.
Oh my God, it is in some places.
That's right. Yeah. Is that crazy?
Yeah, man. I can't believe people are just like okay with our government. I mean, gathering rainwater is not illegal in the United States, as far as I know. I don't even know if that's a state thing or a federal thing.
State. No, it's a state thing.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's some states. And he's some crazy acrobatics this robot can do.
Nice.
Unitree, obviously Chinese.
Yeah.
I mean, why have it dance like a monkey?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Like I understand oh, hey, this robot can do anything, but this is kind of a dumb thing.
It's got no head. Well, no.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. Got the Mario thing. Oh, I can walk upstairs. Neat.
Walk downstairs.
Oh, thank God. We're so close to Terminator, man.
I know. Walking down
this thing is so goofy. Imagine this thing chasing you and trying to kill you. You can't help but laugh.
Well, it wouldn't be nice to see it with a gun. Ugh. Oh, now he's got a dog.
Oh, this is how Skynet starts. Picking on the robots.
Wow. I mean,
it's crazy. It's crazy how fast we're, growing technology-wise.
I've been asking Silicon Valley humanoid robotics manufacturers when their robot will be able to throw a football to a run of 40 meters away. Okay. I mean, can we not have them take over sports as well?
I mean, that's the way I think. I could have sworn we talked about this on the show, like gridiron football, American football. I think that's eventually what it's going to be is robots on the field. But I mean, as soon as everyone can implement this kind of thing in your house, hey, do the dishes, do my laundry. I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'll probably get one for that.
You won't be able to afford it, my man. None of us will.
It'll be like a car. I mean, at least that's what Musk said. He said it'll be like 20 grand, 25 grand.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So you can pay it off over 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But but if it goes up to like 100, 150, yeah, screw that.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys, it's a satellite company that wants to sell sunlight at night, and they will beam down sunlight, to charge, because obviously when it's nighttime and your solar panels don't work.
But there's this thing called daylight
batteries
that lasts about 12 hours that you can use. I'm kind of confused by this whole thing, to be honest.
I mean,
because we have sunlight.
We do have sunlight half the day, yeah. But if you have everyone running off of it, then they do pull a lot of the energy. So maybe you'd need more at night.
But don't you plan for that?
With batteries, yeah.
I mean, if you're someone that wants to live solely off of sunlight,
yeah, man.
Whoops.
If you're someone who wants to live solely off of sunlight, don't you plan around not having access to sunlight for 12 hours of the day?
You could. That is a very, very valid point. What's this guy saying? Now we all know technology can fail catastrophically, and we know that we'll be talking about infrastructure. But oh my god! So, but they test this on a balloon, and they aim it down. But it's not the same thing as a satellite, obviously.
I guess I just don't see the purpose behind this.
That you can still get electricity at night from solar panels,
right? But that's what I was saying. You store up your solar energy during the day so you can use it at night. I just don't.
What if you're using it during the day too? You know what I mean?
Well, you plan. That's what I'm saying. If you are making a living based off of living off of solar panels, you plan for that.
Right. No, I think this is for power plants, like solar power plants, to supply a community, not like one person or a household.
Yeah.
So basically, they have a supply of energy, all the time.
So their plan is to put a big mirror in space.
That's what it looks like. Yeah. So there's a mirror .
I mean, honestly, that's not going to provide all that much energy, I don't think.
Well,
think about how big of a mirror you would need.
Oh, it'd be huge, yes, but it's a satellite, so it could be huge.
Right, but I mean, getting it up there is cost prohibitive in and of itself. I don't know. I mean, this is an interesting concept. I just don't get it, to be honest.
Project Sunrise, what they're called. Well, good luck to them.
Yeah, I suppose.
U.S. government enters the chat.
Yeah, blowing stuff up. I mean, I'm kind of surprised this isn't a thing already.
Right.
I mean, everyone, that meme about kids with magnifying glasses burning up ants. It's the same concept, right?
Right. Where did I read the other day that you can't do that anymore? That's not working. It's probably complete BS. I haven't tried it, but I read somewhere that you can't even burn. You can't use a magnifying glass to use that something's up with the sun, basically.
Oh God.
Complete BS.
Yeah, so RFK dropped his campaign and is joining Trump.
Isn't that crazy?
He gave a great speech.
Beautiful speech. It really was. And he basically blames the Democratic Party. He says it's not the Democratic Party that I was a part of, or my uncle and father were a part of. That they did lawfare against him to keep him off the ballot. They sued him in every single state.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't allow him in debates. He even went to Kamala and asked, wanted to have a discussion with her if he can be in the cabinet or something, where he can contribute. Nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, our whole political system is completely screwed at this point. I think it's so dumb that everyone talks about vote third party, but you can't. You're totally restricted. It's frustrating beyond belief.
Yeah, and they knew that if he was on the ballot, like a Democrat ballot, he would have beat them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because that people, resonate with him. But he would definitely kill big pharma, big ag, the food industry.
Mhm.
Would have to adhere to standards to make us healthy and not sick. And they can't have that. So he is joining Trump. They haven't said yet, but he'll be great as head of HHS.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting having him in the White House, not in the White House, but you know what I mean, White House equivalent,
Right.
Not equivalent, adjacent, White House adjacent.
He has 5% of the vote apparently. So that's huge. That's the last election I think was only like 1 to 2% difference, right?
Yeah,
something like that. So 5% is huge. He does mention in this speech that they got rid of Biden and put someone that hasn't been voted for, that hasn't debated anyone, that hasn't done any interviews, and people are going crazy for her. They have no idea what actually her policies are just scary.
She doesn't even have a policy.
Well, she's been talking about like taxes and stuff, which are really scary, and price fixing.
Well, I love it. You have all of these people who are going to these Democrat events asking like, what's your favorite policy that Kamala is going to implement? And none of them have anything other to say other than, oh, I think she'd be the first, female, black female president.
So stupid.
They have no ideas about her policies or what she believes in. They're just voting for, I don't even know what they're voting for. They're voting for the continuing how shitty everything is. They go, oh, Kamala and the Democrats will fix everything wrong, with this country. And everyone, the obvious follow-up question is, what's stopping them right now?
Yeah, exactly. Why can't they fix
4
it
years?
now?
What the hell's taking them so long? What's going to change if they're in power? And nobody.
It's sad. It's sad that people vote with their emotions.
Yeah, God, it's so dumb.
Like they don't think about it. Like just ignore the person or what they represent, or they can't do that. They can't go with what that person can do for the country with policies,
right?
But instead it's like, oh, how they look, what color they are, what gender they are, and that's
so
it.
Frustrating. Yep.
So yeah, and then there's Congressman Massey he started questioning U.S. Representative Thomas Massey requests that congressmen with dual citizenship renounce the latter. He says dual citizens elected to United States Congress should renounce citizenship in all other countries. At a minimum, they should disclose their citizenship in other countries and abstain from votes specifically benefiting those countries.
Makes sense.
It probably refers mainly to Israeli citizens, of whom there are many in the U.S. Congress and who work for Israel's interests.
I was just about to say, if this were to follow through, Israel would lose a lot of citizens.
Oh, definitely, especially in Congress. Well, do you know in Israel, because there's a lot of Israeli Americans, right? So, but in Israel, if you run for the Knesset, you have to renounce your American citizenship. Obviously,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why are we allowed to have dual citizens? Because they don't care if the country falls down. Oh, whatever. I'll move.
Well, technically, I thought the U.S. You have to renounce your citizenship to become a citizen of the U.S., but that only applies in the U.S. You can still have citizenship. You just have to, like, when you swear in your citizenship or whatever, you say, I renounce all other citizenship to other countries. But
right, it's
no one ever follows up with that.
Yeah, and because it's not law. I looked into it. I remember because I was trying to do a thread and I was having this argument, and there's no law and it's not in the Constitution, so they would have to pass a law or do a constitutional amendment for dual.
And again, Massey is the one congressperson that does not have an AIPAC representative.
The only one.
So good on this guy.
I know, he's the only one that cares. Seriously. Yep. Cuomo.
This was really cool. I was surprised because I have no love for this guy at all, but he brought up a really good point during this piece of journalism here.
Yeah, let's listen to him. He's changed a lot.
Is that they're going to go after corporate gouging, and they're going to go after corporations, whether it's in taxes, largesse, loopholes. The RNC, we heard the same thing. They're going after the elites, the two sets of rules. Let me reveal a reality to you that has to be spoken to here, okay? These are the soldiers. These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs. They take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of sweets, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at 500 grand.
Wow.
You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid 500, 700, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true with the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high at the people who make the difference in their communities. And that is the reality of politics. Yeah. And I had my producer walk around and show you those suites. Now, they're not all the same. They're not all the same. But the reality is, in 2000, they spent $300 million on presidential campaigns. 24 years later, you know what they're expected to spend? $10 billion. God. You know how much money Harris has raised in the last couple of weeks? Hundreds of millions. And that's success. A lot of it's small donor. A lot of it isn't. The most dangerous.
She apparently raised $540 million in 1 month. Could you imagine how much money that is?
You know, everyone. Meanwhile, all of us normal people are struggling to get by. These idiots just have to get in front of a camera and people throw money at them.
And they just lie. Yeah, we're for you. We're for the working class. We'll go get them. I mean, it's so sad.
This is this works perfectly as a transition as to what we were just talking about.
Yeah. Oops.
Let's do this.
Yeah, party of joy. That's what they're. I don't think it's going to work as their campaign slogan or whatever. I mean, there is so little joy in this country right now. I mean, people are struggling. People are struggling.
Yeah, shoveling money out to foreign countries. War, just everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and the last people that the government seems to want to help are its own citizens. It's beyond frustrating to see. And so to sit here and pretend like the Democrats are the good guys and all this other bullshit they're peddling. I mean, it pisses me off, and I imagine it pisses off the regular voter as well, because they see this isn't a time for joy. This is a time for, we need to fix the shit that's happening in this country.
Yep, exactly. Every single agency is captured. The entire government is captured. They don't even talk about Americans or how to fix issues here. It's all about what to do overseas, and just shoveling billions that we don't have. You know, armaments that are supposed to be for us are also just shipped overseas. I mean, it's a really scary situation.
Yes, it is. Is that the end of our show?
It is. Yes,
that is the end of our show. And that show, of course, is the Uncovering Anomalies Podcast.
Episode 86.
Episode 86. We're so close, man.
You believe that? I know.
100 is right around the corner.
Yeah. Hopefully by year's end. Hopefully.
I'm bad at math. I don't think there are 14 weekends between here and maybe there is. I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah, calculator. How many months do we have left? We have
Well, September starts here in a little bit.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, almost.
Well, New Year, 100 episodes. We'll get there. It'll be fun. That is I Have a Need to Know Adam, and he is going to explain to all of you where to find us on social media.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of you are following us on X. We're at UAP the podcast. Hit us up there. Hit me up also at Breakaway Civil, and Topher is at Topher et al. Connect with us there. Let us know what you think. Give us some tips on what you want us to cover. Tag us, and we'll definitely reply back to you. X is the only one we're on because they don't censor. They do, but just in very extreme circumstances. If we go on anywhere else and put our material on there, we'd definitely get censored. So yeah, find us on X. That's for social media, and then we're on all podcasting platforms, and we're on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. So make sure to follow us there and share our show with your friends. Help us grow. Support us if you can. I know it's tough times out there, so don't feel the need to. That's fine. But our support link is under all of our shows, and so are the show notes, just in case you want to dig deeper yourself and go through the videos or documents that we share. Please go ahead and do so.
Awesome. Well, like I said, that is I Have a Need to Know Adam. I am Topher. We want to thank you all so much for listening. Tell a friend about the show. And we cannot wait to broadcast to you all next week.
Yep. See you all next week.